Hey guys, this is National Master Kemyak back at it with another video. This time it'll be one of my recent games, one of my prouder wins against one of the highest people I've played on chess.com. So I played this in a tournament called Title Tuesday. It's on chess.com. So I played this against Grandmaster Sergey Zagalko. So amazing GM. So, as you can tell, this guy is, I believe, from Belarus. I completely forgot. Zigarko. So, yeah, a Belarusian chess grandmaster. So, let's get back to the game. This was my only win over him, but I thought it was something to be proud of, right? I know he might have not been on form, but it's something to be proud of, beating a really high respected GM. So after e4, c6, d4, d5, e5 happens. So as you can tell, I am a Caro-Kann player. I like to smoothen things out with a very walled structure. Bishop f5, knight f3, e6. Bishop e2. I won't go much into this opening, but I can tell you it's a very advanced opening, right? Nobody as a beginner will tell you move your knight to h6, then move it to f5. I won't even tell you that as a beginner. It is really hard to understand why we do it, but we do it. So I do it. After bishop e7, a grandmaster weakens his king's position. The reason being, this knight can be pushed away. So he pushes mine away. h3, knight g8, knight e1, h5. Now you might be thinking, Dake, he has 3 attackers. I only have 2, right? He can just take the pawn, right? That's true. I'm not touching it. After bishop g4, knight h6, knight g2, bishop g5. Now, you have to wonder, why did I give up this pawn, right? There's no result coming. And the answer is, at my level, I don't expect a result right away. I just think, you know what? I am improving. My knight's not in the worst spot. This pawn and this pawn look really clumsy. This bishop is holding it together for now. But I said, you know what? I like this. So I would rather this pawn be here doing nothing rather than be here restricting this square, right? So you notice that earlier on, this pawn was restricting the square. But now, by freeing it, I've sort of given myself this square. So you'll see that square is a very useful one for me. So after the move bishop g5, right? So after knight g2, I start to wonder, okay, bishop g5, right? And sometimes I'll ask myself, why did I play that move? And the reason is because after bishop takes, queen takes, I am in a better position to threaten the bishop. And of course, I would like to say that my bishop isn't necessarily great on this square. It's not doing much, right? So ideally, I would like to push this pawn here, but I don't want to right now. So I play bishop g5 just for the sake of it. So after f4, denies the trade, I go back. After bishop e3, I play g6 now. Now you might think, well, why are you just giving away your pawn for free, right? So now white has this extra pawn. But notice how weak it is with my rook attacking it, right? It can't go to h4 because my bishop guards that square, and so does my queen. So I just have to say, you know what? Use the most of these two squares, and we'll get there. So after queen e2, I play knight f5. I like this square. I'm threatening the fork between the rook and the queen. So after bishop f2, queen c7. Notice I'm not doing much. I am not making much action. But here's my plan. Castle queenside, get the rook out, maybe swing the knight back, get the bishop in, double up here. It's very hard to follow, but let's just say king h2, right? Castles. Say rook g1, rook g8, right? And after, let's say something like rook f1, I'm just playing random moves. Rook g7, and my plan is rook here, knight here, move the bishop out. Very simple. So Mr. Zigalko plays a4, and rightfully so. a5, a6. I said, you know what? I am not fearing your attack. And here I had a small scare. I thought I could play c4, right? And after d takes, queen takes, I was like, I don't know if I feel safe here. But I realized I can go knight b6 and knight d5, and I thought I was fine. So, small scare, false alarm. So after a5, I said, you know what? I cannot allow this. So I play a6. It's called prophylaxis, right? I am preventing my opponent from executing his or her plan. So, very simple as that. Knight c1, the plan being knight d3, b4, c5. Zigarko, the GM, wants to attack. Completely fine. I continue on with my plan. Rook g8, b4, knight h6, bishop g3. Now here's where I thought I wasn't exactly sure what bishop g3 did. Maybe to put another person on this very busy file, but I don't know. Bishop g3, I carried on. Did bishop e4. Maybe want to bring my knight back in. Probably want to double up, like I said. So after king f2, I just brought it in. I said, you know what? I love to trade for this guy because then if the king comes here, I can play f5. And so after rook g1, made a mistake. GMs rarely make a mistake, but notice this is a 3-minute game, right? I will make a mistake. Anyone can make a mistake in a 3-minute game. Even the world champion can. So after knight takes, king takes f5, you notice that the rook is pinning the bishop to the king. The pawn is threatening the bishop. The only move is the good old French en passant. I play knight takes f6. Notice he can't take because I'm pinning his bishop. Knight d3. And here I am down to like seconds. I am down to seconds. I don't know what to do. I just frantically play bishop f5. I want to put more pressure on this guy. And later on, after the game, I discovered that this is a winning move. Bishop takes knight, queen takes, and after knight check, I noticed that after king h2, rook takes, right? So after king h2, rook takes. Cannot take back because of this pin, right? The other move is king f3, but let's look at this. Rook takes h3, right? Or you could do rook takes g4. Rook takes g4, h takes, rook check, skewer on the queen, wouldn't want to do that. After king takes, good old Forkarooski, Forktown, Yorktown, right? So that would have been a deadly threat. But instead, I didn't have time, so I played bishop f5. Also fine. Exerting pressure on this guy. And I thought he was going to play knight e5, right? But then I realized I have the move knight e4 again. And after king f3, I have the brilliant move rook takes h3. Bishop takes h3, rook g3, checkmate. So there are so many tactical things in the position. But after his knight f2, Zygarko's knight f2, defending this bishop, I thought I need to attack this king in other ways. So I played knight h5. Not the best move. I realized I was panicking because I didn't know what to do after king f3. Right? Do I play bishop d6 and go for this pawn? Do I move the knight back? I didn't know. Right? So I decided, let's just wait and see. And here Zygarko made a very big mistake. King h2 allowed me to take the pawn that blocks my vision from his king. Knight takes, queen takes, king g2, bishop d6, make a scary threat that actually does nothing. And after king f1, I made a blunder. But it's not easy to see here. The correct move is queen takes pawn, giving away the queen. The reason? After bishop takes, king c7, and rook takes g8. Here's the reason why. This is checkmate, right? And so the bishop is also threatening the rook. That is something that I did not see, my opponent did not see. So you notice in this variation, the rook's hanging, right? And there's checkmate. So what do I have to do? I have to play rook h1 check, or I have to free up this space. So I have to sack the bishop, right? So it's one of these moves that will help get me out. But look at the computer evaluation. It's 0.00, which means it's equal. It's completely equal. But let's look at the computer evaluation here, right? It is minus 5.92, which means for negative numbers, black is favored to win. Like, black should win this game. But if we look at the evaluation here, is 0.00. So let's go to the game. In the end, our Zygarko faltered in time pressure with the move rook g2. And after rook g2, rook h1 happened on the board. The knight cannot take it because the queen pins the knight. And after rook g1, rook takes, king takes, and after bishop takes g4, have the rook supporting it. I have threats of queen here. Zygarko resigned. And surely it was a topsy-turvy game, but I wanted to show you my potential in realizing that, slowly improving is the goal here. So this is not a mistake by Zygarko, but it's like an opening choice. So had to spend a few moves getting it back, but after sacrificing this pawn, this was a really important square throughout the game. So if you'll notice, I basically used that square to my advantage. I carried out my plan with that square. After knight takes, right, you notice this pawn and this king and this whatever, this barrier is what accelerated the downfall of Zygarko's position. And hopefully you did enjoy everything I said in this video. Like, comment, and subscribe.